Hi, I'm Karen Mackey of Mackey Twins Art Gallery. We are twin gallerists, and the other part of me is missing due to a injury, but she'll be returning to the equation very soon. My sister and I have always been very interested in art, and although our careers have changed over the years, our interest in art has not waned. Although we have the art business, I'm currently the vice president at City College, and my sister also works at City College. She heads up continuing and professional studies. So not only do we have this gallery together, we also happen to be fortunate enough to work in the same place. But back to the art. Many years ago, many years ago, when we were high school teachers, probably over 35 years ago, we always wanted to collect art, and we certainly couldn't do it on a teacher's salary at that time. So we'd visit galleries, and sometimes we felt uncomfortable, and gallerists and people who own the galleries, they could tell that we probably weren't in the position to collect, so we didn't get too much attention, and we didn't like how that felt. So we constantly would talk about how do we make something like that work, and how do we support artists of color in particular on our salary. And we kept thinking, and after a few years we ran into a gallery owner who said, listen, you could buy art, you can do it on a payment plan. And that's when our collecting days started, and we've been collecting ever since, and we wanted to continue the process in a bigger way. So we started our own gallery, and we wanted to develop collectors, but we also wanted anyone to feel comfortable looking at art, asking questions about art. We didn't want anyone to feel the least bit uncomfortable, whether they could buy or they could not buy. So we started having these art shows, some in our home, some shows at the Schomburg, at the Arsenal Gallery in Central Park, and people responded well. We got a lot of attention, good response, sometimes good sales, sometimes not, but we've always provided a platform of live jazz music, good wine, and some hors d'oeuvres. And fine art deserves a fine environment, and it also deserves an environment where people feel comfortable. And it has happened, and it has evolved. The business has evolved. And to this exhibit here at the Interchurch Center Gallery, it has been absolutely amazing. The artwork showcases extremely well. We had a wonderful opening reception a few weeks ago, and we had over 250 people in the building that walked around and saw the art. And they also got a chance to meet most of the artists who are represented in this particular exhibition. It was an amazing experience. People loved hearing the voices of the artists. And that takes me to Art Conscious too, the name of the exhibition. Sometimes people don't always get an opportunity to connect to the artist, to understand what it is to have this gift, what is it to paint, and to sometimes be pushed to paint something that isn't always popular and that's not for sales, but for what they are being mandated to do, what the gift mandates, and what it's like, how we are responsible to help collect work, to support artists. And even if you don't know anything about art, when you walk around a room and you see art, you have a response to it. You may not know why, whether it's color, whether it's subject matter, you don't know why. But art brings magic to any environment, any place. So even if you don't know much, you're still drawn to it. And over the years, a lot of people who might not have collected have started to collect, who have come to our shows. And some people are up to their 10th piece now. Some people have said, okay, I have several artists, who should I start collecting next? And it's a pretty amazing feeling, but not just from people who have supported the shows. It's an amazing feeling when we hear from our artists. Most of them we've represented for a number of years now, and they tell us, listen, don't stop doing what you're doing. Keep the integrity going. keep representing us in the manner in which you are. And we're committed, even though our other jobs are demanding, we will not give up on this equation. What you are looking at now is a particular artist named Charlie Palmer. And he is very conscious of the earth, he's conscious of human rights, civil rights, but he's also conscious of history. When you look at his work, we can all identify with it. He identifies with family. You see sisters, you see church themes, you see children, you see adults. And he uses sometimes a method that looks like stained glass windows. And he also likes musical themes. So you're going to see some jazz pieces that he's done too, but his work is quite amazing with color, with its presentation, and also with its roots to history.
All right.
As we continue to move along here, we're going to look at the work featured over here. And these works are featured by twins, male twins. And their work is quite powerful, and it's also wonderful to see them work on a canvas at one time, one canvas. And at the Schomburg a few years ago, we did an art exhibit for them at the Schomburg. And my sister and I purchased a piece of blank canvas and said, if you're inspired to do this, perhaps towards the end of the exhibit, you two can do paint on a canvas so people can actually see it. It's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to witness it. And only if they were inspired to do this, because sometimes you just don't know. So we always try to have a panel discussion when we have the artists present. So after the artists talk, they said, get the canvas. So we put the canvas out and they start throwing paint on the canvas, and my sister and I are looking like, All of a sudden you see an instrument taking shape, you see a person taking shape, and watching them paint was so cathartic, because although you see two individuals, you saw one pair of hands. There was no verbal communication. Every communication between them was telepathic. And it was pretty phenomenal to watch two actual human beings and one pair of hands.
Okay.
They continue to paint together. Their work is amazing. You will see other pieces that they've painted also. Now I'm going to turn you around a little bit more to these two pieces on the wall. This work is by the late Betty Blayton, who passed in October. Betty Blayton's work is extremely metaphysical. She was also the co-founder of the Studio Museum, co-founder of the Children's Art Carnival, and she spent her entire life advocating for the arts on her terms, and never compromised her work for fashion. She was committed, her use of color, her patterns, beautiful. She's noted for the circular pieces, and it's sad that we don't have her as an earthly advocate anymore, but she's a strong advocate on another platform. As we move through the exhibit, we have an artist by the name of Zenobia Bailey, whose work is in yarn. She's a crochet artist, and some of you might have seen this, but a couple of years ago, the Metropolitan Transit Authority had an open call for artists to present some type of design that would go in the 34th Street train station, the Navy Yard, right here in Manhattan, in Lower Manhattan. And Zenobia Bailey won the bid. She submitted her work with crochet. So of course this had to transform into work that would actually be in the subway station on tiles. So they had to bring in a tile artist, a color artist. And now when you go to the 34th Street station on the west side, you will see, if you look up, this glorious mosaic in the train station. This artist proof is a part of that. And it'd be lovely to have it in anyone's collection, these kind of concentric circles, and to have a woman of color's work gracing the 34th Street train station. It's pretty historic.
That is pretty amazing.
Yes. Now we have another artist. This is hand-stitched embroidery. Doesn't look like that on camera, but this is actually yarn. Yarn. This piece is called Teacup Fishing. It is beautiful. It took the artist Ruth Miller 6 years to do this piece, but her use of yarn is absolutely amazing. Now, when she's doing this, sometimes she says she doesn't like aspects of the color. In order for her to correct it to her pleasing, she has to get a tweezer and pull each piece of yarn out one by one. So it's extremely tedious work, but this is a beautiful signature piece.
I've never seen anything like
I know, isn't it something? Now we're moving on to one of the masters, James Denmark. Been around a long time. He's an octogenarian. We're happy to have him as one of the artists that we represent, but he is a wonderful collagist, but he's also doing watercolor, and his work is phenomenal. This is new work. He's still creating new work, and also he's an amazing historian.
Wow.
Yes. We also have more works by James Denmark here. We have a signature historical piece, Briggs versus Elliott, which is the case that preceded Brown versus Board of Education, in which Thurgood Marshall was involved. And when you look at the piece, you see all the components of what the case represented. You see the minister, you see the courthouse, you see the school bus with white children on the school bus, you see black kids walking. So it's a very historical piece. It's a commissioned piece. It was commissioned by the governor of South Carolina, who is no longer the governor, Sanford, to honor the celebration and the time in history. So this is quite a powerful piece. Yes, yes. This is more of James Denmark's work, his collages, as well as his watercolor. We're shifting gears a bit, and the next artist is Magno Larraquente, one of our Latino artists who is extremely popular internationally in many of the museums, and his work is also very colorful, different. Sometimes people prefer images, but his works can go in any place in the home. Beautiful, scenic, peaceful. This is more of Magno Larraquente's work. Also involves nature, very relaxing color. You see a few images here and there. Another strong color artist is Stacy Brown. His work also serene, peaceful, relaxing, wonderful to have in a bedroom, a meditation room, a study. We have more of Charlie Palmer's work, and something that a lot of people don't get to see are his still lifes, and he's represented in his still lifes here. So this is a nice little departure from what he normally does. Here we have work by Dimitri Denmark, which is the grandson of James Denmark. Also his collages, you see a similarity in his grandfather's work, but his use of color is fantastic, and his collages are quite well done and were quite popular in the show. People really loved his work, so we're delighted to have him in the show. Now we're going to position ourselves on the other side, okay? Now we're transitioning to Leroy Campbell. And Leroy Campbell's work is extremely different. He's exceptionally creative, and as you can see, he uses different types of framing methods, and people like the uniqueness. and his images are very powerful images in culture, whether that culture is Southern or Caribbean. You can really identify with his work, as you can see in the frames here too.
It's interesting how
Is
it
it-
uses the found objects as
Yes,
well.
yes. He goes to a lot of the antique stores and collects a lot of the old pieces and turns them into frames. Here we have another vintage Zenobia Bailey piece framed differently so people can get different ideas how things can look in the home. Again, we have another piece by twin artists Jerry and Terry Lynn.
How would be your son coming out over there?
Here we have an artist, Esud Funkap,
Oh, yeah.
who is not just a wonderful painter, but also a trained musician. When you look at the work, you will see instruments, you will see faces. His colors really pop. Once again, this is more of Esud Funkap's work. You will see the instruments, you see pianos, horns. You'll also see birds and human faces. But his colors are very rich. Once again, more of Esud Funkap's work, which can go in any place in the home. Now that represents approximately 67 pieces were in this show, and unfortunately it can't stay up forever, but we will probably be back again next year around the same time with all brand new works and much of the same artist. We will bring our artists back. They enjoyed this platform, they enjoyed seeing their work in this space, they enjoyed how it was displayed, and we're going to do it again so that people can come out and see the exhibit.